This is the jpeg2RAW podcast. I'm Mike Howard. I'm broadcasting from the basement of Nav Studios here in sunny and hot Atlanta. jpeg2RAW is a photography podcast for the amateur photographer. You can find us on the web at www.navstudios.com, and you can contact the show by emailing us at podcast@navstudios.com. You can also find us on Facebook, Flickr, and Twitter by searching for jpeg2RAW, or just follow the links on our website.
Hey everyone.
Hot diggity.
Right, well, let's go ahead and get started before we lose this. This is jpeg2RAW, show number 22, coming to you on December 27th. My name is Mike Howard, and I'm joined tonight by Tim Kemperle and Kathleen Bowie, both co-hosts.
Evening.
How you guys doing?
Doing great, doing great. How are you, Mike?
Doing great. And we have our special guest, Scott Greene, tonight. How you
Hey,
doing?
Scott.
So generally at the beginning of the show, we start off with some photography-related news. But I thought tonight, instead of doing normal news, we would do something a little different, and we'd talk a little bit real quickly about what we got, if anything, for Christmas, photography-related. And then Tim has a special announcement, non-photography-related, but maybe it
will be photography-related in the future.
Yes. So Tim, what's your announcement?
Well, my wife finally, after 10 years of trying, we are expecting our second child, so we are happier than anything, and didn't even expect it anymore. So this is a wonderful announcement.
Congratulations!
That is awesome. Congratulations, Tim. That's a big time.
Yeah, that is wonderful Christmas news. When did y'all actually find out?
We found out, I think it was a week before Thanksgiving, but we didn't want to announce anything until we knew it was going to be good. And then we said, Christmas Eve is a good time to tell the family. We surprised Jack. I actually put a video up on a Facebook of him, or actually on YouTube, of him hearing it and saying, "You're pregnant," and just jumping up. And he was happy. He's been, actually, for the past 2 months, it's almost like he was clairvoyant. He actually has been asking more and more questions. Why can't I have a brother or a sister? All my friends do. And then I think it was 2 weeks ago, he's laying down in bed and I was with him. He's like, I know I'm not going to have a baby brother or sister, but I do have my little doll. We had bought him a baby doll he called it Matthew, about 6 or 7 years ago. And he started cuddling it, and it was getting sad, and I just wanted to tell him at that point.
Yeah.
But he's very pleased.
I bet he's so excited. So are you going to have to name this baby Matthew if it's a boy?
No, my brother-in-law's name's Matthew, and their son is Matthew, so
Okay.
Matthew's out.
Okay.
Well, congratulations, Tim. That's excellent news. Excellent news. So what photography-related things did you get? And your video's frozen, so I don't know if we're going to be able to see it.
Of course it is.
You may have to just describe it.
Well, I got a camera holster from Spider. I don't know if this is going to show up on there. It's a whole little system. I actually saw it on a B&H video a couple of weeks ago, and I threw it on my Amazon wish list, and my wife wound up getting it for me, so I can carry the camera on my side. I always hated the neck strap, and I never had something that I really liked, so this was something I saw, I wanted it, and right now I'm very pleased. I haven't even opened it up yet. And my mother-in-law got me a Wacom Intuos 4 tablet, so that really was not something I expected.
Now, what size did you get?
I got the small. I went with the one that you had, because I was going to go with the medium, and putting it on a wish list for I think it was $350. It was a little bit. I wasn't going to get it. Let's put it that way. So, asking for it, the small was more likely, and I did get it.
Yeah, and since you can't show yours, I'll show you mine. This is. Let's see if I can get it in there. This is the tablet.
That's the one.
Do you guys really love that? I mean, I used a girlfriend of mine's for 10 minutes, and I know new things always take longer to get used to, but I just could not.
It definitely takes some getting used to, and I am not great at it. The little pen that comes with it is what you use in Photoshop or Lightroom, whatever. And there's sometimes I don't use it as much as I thought I would use it. I do pretty good with the mouse and doing the edits with the mouse. But when I get into some fine-tune, edits, I'm wanting to do some stuff like that, then I go back to that. But I'm not using it hardcore like some people may. Scott, have you ever used one of those?
No, I was fixing to ask, what kind of edits, fine-tuning would you need anything other than a mouse?
You can do really good with a mouse, obviously. I mean, that's what most people use. But,
Right.
this thing just allows me it's like a pencil. You're drawing on the thing on that little screen, and it's in the same relationship to your monitor. So in your upper left hand corner, you're in the upper left hand corner of the monitor. So it takes some getting used to, but I feel like I have finer control. And then if you saw, there's a little dial on it. See if I can get it back into the screen. This thing right here,
Right.
I have that set to change the size of my brush or whatever it is. So I can just turn that dial either way as I'm working, and it will change the size of the brush.
Oh, that's pretty. That's
in and
pretty
out. So if I'm zooming in on the eye and I want to do something to an eye, I can dial that brush size way down as I zoom in, really easy. So that's not a good reason to buy one of those things.
Well, and also I think masking is so much easier if you're going to use this. I actually started watching a couple of videos, one from Scott Kelby on how to use it in Lightroom, and he actually wound up going from Lightroom more into Photoshop with it. So it's not a great tool, I don't think, for Lightroom itself, but for Photoshop, I think it's a great tool. And then I actually started looking at video from Wacom on it as well on how to use it. And I had read a couple of articles previously, and I know it's a lot easier to use than a mouse. My mouse skills are pathetic at best, especially if I want to draw out a certain area.
Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and give you my one complaint I've had about my Mac.
Just
So go
one?
ahead and write it down because you won't hear
There's
another
got to
one.
be a couple of complaints, more than one.
Yeah, more than one.
It's my mouse. Very often, it tells me that it loses the signal, and I've taken it back to the store to ask them what the deal is, and I never got a straight answer. And so if anybody has any ideas out there, it's like I'll be right in the middle of editing something, and all of a sudden I'll be like clicking away, and my mouse has just kind of disappeared.
Do you know if it's Bluetooth? Do you know if it's Bluetooth or if it's regular wireless?
I don't know.
Can I tell you? Go ahead,
Probably
Scott.
Bluetooth. I've got the same mouse with my Mac Pro.
Uh-huh.
Bluetooth, this, that, and the other, but I use an old Dell mouse from a PC hooked up.
Did yours do that when did you ever use this mouse?
I never used it. I hate the Mac mouses in general. I don't like the way they feel. I don't know. They're too sophisticated for me. Yeah.
Well, Kathleen,
Well, I think that was always the biggest complaint people have had was the mouse on a Mac. I don't know anybody that's ever liked the mouse on it. So,
well, Kathleen knows I like to get a little digs in every now and then on Apple, but I will have to tell you this, that I have a Bluetooth mouse for my PC. I'm PC, and I've had some of the same issues, and I've actually gone back to using a wired mouse. This is just this one right here is a cheap $9 job, but I just get much better response out of the wired mouse.
Yeah, maybe I should try that. Just go back to no Bluetooth at least.
My wife has a regular radio frequency one, whatever, and those have worked really well. She hasn't had any problem with it. So
I went back to a wired mouse as well on my home computer. My work laptop, I just prefer a wireless, but I've had so many issues with it not connecting to the screen. I just went back to a wired one.
Yeah, it could just be the Bluetooth is not the greatest for that. Okay, so Tim, anything else?
I did get a reflector and a tripod for it as well. So I put a couple of things on it. And I actually got it, so I can't complain.
Yeah, very good, very good. All right, I guess I'll go next. So I already had the 35 millimeter 1.8, and this is the DX. This is not for full frame. So I think.
Do you also have a 50 millimeter?
I do.
And what do you like the 35 that much better?
I'm actually really liking the 35. Yeah.
Better than the 50?
I'm liking it better than the 50. Yeah.
Okay.
It is more expensive. It's about $200, but it's still not bad. Now this, I think if we're going to get to Scott, he's going to tell us he shoots with a full frame camera. So you would not want to get this one for a full frame camera because it is the DX version.
Oh, well, I have a full frame too.
And it's Nikon. And if you're going to go with full frame, you'll want to get the I think it's F2 on the 35 millimeter, and that one's about $350, $400.
Awesome.
So that's that. I got. Have y'all seen these things? If I can get it off. I think it's called Honno straps.
Yeah, I've got one on my flash.
And so if you ever try to mount something on your flash and you put Velcro on there, you have to get the sticky kind before, and it gums up your flash. Where you can get these Honno straps, which Velcro on the outside, and they're like a sticky type material. It's not
like a rubber,
glue.
like skid proof.
Like a rubber thing that wraps around it. And that then allows you to add attachments very quickly and easily. And I got the LumaQuest, what's it called? Pro Max system. And this is cheap stuff. This is not very expensive. So it has an 80-20 bounce. You see that? Is it better if I show you this way? So you would add it like this, and 80% of the light's going to go up through here and hit the ceiling, and 20% is going to go forward.
Ooh.
So that's neat. But it also comes with a white card to put in there, a silver card to put in there, and a gold card to put in there. So you would just add them into here and then have a gold bounce. And then you could also have a diffuser.
That's cool. That'll be fun.
So all those are cheap things. I think the whole thing was probably like $19. It's not that expensive. Then, if you remember back, I think show 14, when we had Ali on, he talked about the Enduro tripod. Do you remember? I don't know if Kathleen was with us back then.
No, I wasn't.
Tim, do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember that.
So I got it. I have a full-size tripod, and I wanted something smaller, easy to travel with, and this is a little Enduro. One thing I don't have is a ball head for it yet, so it's not going to do me a lot of good right now. But it's a nice little, easy, light tripod. I'll probably spend more.
Cool.
I'll probably spend more on a ball head than I will on the
probably
the thing. And then I got, this is my full-size tripod. I got leg protectors for the tripod.
Oh, that looks
nice.
serious.
Yeah, and the little sticky glue they gave you to and make sure these things don't roll around is absolutely worthless. So I'm gonna have to get something else and stick it in there because they roll around. But it makes it much easier when you got it on your shoulder, and it protects the legs.
That's nice.
Could be a weapon as well.
It could be. That's a serious size ball head. Look at that thing.
Yeah, no messing around there.
So that's it for me. Kathleen?
Okay, my turn. Well, evidently I was a naughty girl this year because I did not get everything on my photography list.
Hold on a second.
Hmm?
Is this your husband buying you stuff?
No.
Never mind. I'm going to keep this G-rated. Go ahead.
I did get my little Easy Balance gray card thing. Watch out, people.
Oh, nice. Look at that.
That's pretty cool. Okay, but I will tell you that I had two things on my list that evidently are in back order because my in-laws ordered them for me and they didn't come in. One of them was just some reflectors. And then the other one was my calibrator for my screen. And I feel stuck because I don't want to edit another picture until I get my screen calibrated.
So which type did you wind up getting?
I went with the Huey Pro.
Yay!
I didn't make the decision. My friend Mary did. I didn't have time, so I asked her if she would look into them, and she picked that. So I don't really know why, but that's what we're getting. They both looked so good, the Spider versus the Huey Pro. So I didn't really have a preference one way or the other. I think she said something about, and maybe you guys can tell me this since each of you guys have one, but the Huey Pro consistently calibrates your screen, where the Spider you have to do it manually. Is that true?
The Spider I do, you have to, yeah.
I have on my desk the calibrator, and it sits there. So if the light changes in my room, it will it'll adjust the screen to it. But I still have to recalibrate the screen every 2 weeks, and it takes about maybe 60 seconds to 90 second stops.
Okay.
That's pretty fast, yeah.
Okay, but I do have something else on my list that I didn't get that I'm going to buy for myself just to try it out. I've been wanting a macro lens for a long time, but I can't swallow the $900 that I would have to spend on the one that I want. Yeah, I saw Mike's face.
$900.
Yeah. So I saw these close-up filters. Have you guys ever used them?
Is it a close-up filter or what do they call those? Those extension tubes or?
Tubes, yeah.
Yeah. Is it one of those extension tubes?
I don't know what it is, but you screw it onto your lens.
The front of the lens or the back of the lens?
The front.
Okay, yeah, it's a filter. I've not used those. I've heard people who use the extension tubes, which I think you screw in the back of the lens.
Oh,
and
never heard of that.
Those seem to work pretty well. I've not heard about the filters.
Okay. Well, they're only like $40 and you get 3 different filters that get you in closer. And of course, if you do a comparison with a real macro with the filters, you're going to see minor slight differences. And maybe at some point I'll take the $900 jump. But I really want to get those close in shots and I'm not being able to get them with my newborns. And so I kind of want to bridge the gap between the $900 lens and not getting the shot at all.
How close are you wanting to get?
I want to get like just their lips or just their eyelashes. So really close.
Look, before you buy those, look at the extension tubes.
Okay, I'll look that up.
Are you familiar with those, Scott?
I haven't used it. I think I have the, Kathleen, are you talking about the 105 macro that you're
Yes.
running? Well, I've got that lens and I use it a good bit for like my wedding photography.
Okay.
But the focus on it is real finicky. It's not as glamorous as it's cut out to be. It does take great shots, but as far as like you want to use it to shoot close-ups of babies, this, that, and the other, it may cause a little headache here and there trying to get that focus fine-tuned. Because if you're in real tight, it wants to jump back and forth, and you have to end up manually zeroing it in, and it's a little tough. It's a great lens, but it's not. I mean, you might even maybe look at the 60 millimeter macro or something like that. But that 105, it's great, but it is real finicky when it comes to tight focus.
Okay.
The one difference is going to be is she's on Canon.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know if that is the same for Canon versus Nikon.
Maybe not.
But I didn't remember the 105 on the Nikon side being $900.
Well, the one I was looking at was the 100 2.8 actually.
I don't remember. Anyway, check out the extension tubes. I think I was saying it wrong.
Extenders. Yeah. Extension tube. I don't know.
Check out those before you get the filters. They're probably a little more than those filters, though. But you might want to do a comparison test on, look online and see what kind of comparison they have before you buy it. Okay. Scott, are we done with you, Kathleen?
Yep, we're done.
Okay. Scott, did you have anything you wanted to say before we move on to the main topic?
Well, my Christmas list is actually coming this week. I'm off work this week, so I think I'm going to make a trip to a few of the local photography stores to I'm looking at getting the Nikons. I've had the VR1 7200 and I'm looking to get the VR2 7200, so hopefully maybe by the end of the week I'll have that in possession.
I have one of the lenses back there is the VR1. What is the VR2 adding, do you know? I know it's an improved VR and vibration reduction.
I think it's just focusing speed's a little quicker, not much, but I don't know. I just like the I guess the way it's a little bit more bulk all the way through the lens rather than that comes narrowed down on the VR1.
Right.
So the VR1 is for sale if anybody out there wants to purchase it, by the way.
And that is a fantastic lens. Yeah,
it's great. I mean, it stays on one camera 100% of the time. So
when I started out, I got the Sigma 7200, and to be honest, I thought it was a great lens until I tried the Nikon 7200. And while there is, the Nikon's about double the price, or maybe more. Once I started shooting with the Nikon 7200 and compared it to the Sigma, and they're both 2.8 lenses, you could see the quality difference. It was better contrast, it was better colors, it seemed sharper. It was just a really nice lens. Okay, so you're gonna look for that. Anything else?
No, but I will show you a little secret I picked up over the weekend.
Oh yeah.
I'm all about saving money when I can, and I do a lot of with wedding photography. I do a lot of shooting in the dark, and a lot of times the lens. I don't know if you've ever tried to shoot in the dark, but how your lens, if you don't have a lot of contrast, it just keeps trying to find a focus point to lock onto. This little device here is a little LED light that goes on the end of a hat bill. You can slide it right onto the end of your lens hood and turn it on, and you got your little
That's cool.
light system for all of $3.99.
Wow.
Okay, so wait, so the LED is not going to throw off white balance or anything like that?
Typically when I'm shooting in the dark like that, I'm using a flash, either right or left, off camera, and that much LED is not going to affect it's not going to basically affect the light output from my flash. So
that is so much less unassuming than your camera like doing that flicker thing and like blinding people, so you can see where you're shooting at.
Right. But yeah, it's I think I'm gonna try it in my first wedding. It may go over well, it may not. I don't know, but we'll see. $3.99 is worth the shot.
It's worth the risk.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Yeah. All right. So I think that that finishes that up. Now let's get into the main topic, and that is Scott. Let's give him a break to finish drinking. That's all right, Scott. So,
Scott.
why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what type of photography you do and how you got into photography?
All right. Well, to begin with, I graduated from the University of West Georgia with a graphic design degree. I work full time as a creative director for an advertising company out of Athens, Georgia. And I got into photography actually in school. I pretty much minored in photography, 35 millimeter film, black and white, touched on digital my senior year. And then from there, I went from in Jefferson, where I live, Jefferson, Georgia. We've had two musicians come through that's been fairly successful, and I got the privilege to shoot both of their first CDs. One of them, I don't know if a lot of you guys out there may know him, Corey Smith, and the other one's Brantley Gilbert. But I did Corey's first 4 CD covers and did all the photography on those. Brantley's first CD cover, all the photography on it. And then I had people ask me, what do you charge to take pictures? And I was like, well, I don't know. I've never done that. So just kind of snowballed from there. And that was back in, I think, end of 04, beginning of 05. And I just kind of took what I knew and went to workshops and seminars and read tons of magazines and books and just basically grew from there. And now I mainly shoot weddings and senior photography. I shoot, kids and babies, whenever they come across, but typically I specialize mainly in wedding and senior portraits.
That's awesome. So you feel like your juices flow best when you're doing like senior photography or weddings? I
do, and I love shooting the kids, the toddlers, and the 3 to 6 year old range. But I will admit the newborn babies, I get a little nervous every time somebody wants me to shoot those. I just feel like I'm way out of my element there, and I do a fairly good job, I guess, but I just don't think I'm there where I need to be to charge what I do. So
I think that people get nervous with newborns because you have to pose them. It's obviously not the photography side that makes you nervous.
Right, yeah.
So if you had someone else there posing them, you'd probably be good to go.
Yeah, my wife comes with me a good bit on a lot of those shoots, and she helps out a lot. But yeah, it's and plus I can't tell them to do this and do that and then listen to me, so it's a little difficult there.
So now, how do you manage having a full-time job and also running the photography business?
It's pretty tough. It's the good thing about it is my full-time job. It's while I'm extremely busy there at work, it's also very low stress when I walk out the doors. It stays there at work. I usually come home in the afternoons, spend, I don't know, probably till 9:30, 10 o'clock with my wife and Owen, who's a 4-year-old son. And then once they usually go to bed, usually 2 to 3 times a week, if I've got anything to do, I'll stay up here and work till probably 12:30, 1 o'clock. Knock out what I need to, go to bed, and do it all over maybe the next day. I try to take Wednesdays off and the weekends from working at night. So,
Yeah.
So we're holding you up tonight.
no. I pretty much took November through February off. So this is my regrouping period.
That's awesome.
Okay.
So how many years have you been in photography, do you think?
Well, I started charging in 2005, so I guess that would be considered when I started going professional. So
That's
2005, awesome. I guess it's fixed to be 2012. So
almost 7 years.
Right.
Yep. That's great. Yeah. Congratulations.
And we're going to get to some of your images in a little bit. You'll see Scott is an excellent photographer. And this is a question that everybody always asks: is what gear do you shoot with?
I'm a Nikon guy. When I first started out, I was actually, my very first digital SLR was a Minolta 7D. Loved the camera.
I remember that. Yeah.
And that's what I had. I had a 7D, and I switched over to the Sony brand now.
Yeah, and when I found out that Minolta had sold out all their photography line, at the time I was like, okay, and I only had just a handful of lenses, and I knew Sony had bought them out, and I was like, well, I'm not 100% sold on Sony as a, at that time, they were just now breaking into the SLR market. I was like, I don't know if I want to fully invest in Sony right now, so I kind of played around with a few Canons and a few Nikons, and I just liked the way the Nikon features and the bodies felt over the Canons.
Of course you did.
Exactly. And I just went with them, and I've been full Nikon all the way.
Now, the next thing he's going to tell us is going to make me so jealous is which actual Nikon cameras do you shoot with?
My backup camera right now is a Nikon D3. And my primary is a Nikon D3S.
Oh my gosh, those are
awesome.
Yes, those are wonderful cameras. And I'm not trying to imply it's like Michelangelo's paintbrush must have been really good. That's a lot of people say, oh, look at those great photos. What camera do you use?
Right.
It's not the camera, it's the photographer. But I can still be jealous of the gear because I'm still shooting with an old D2X. Yeah, D2X. Okay. Which is not bad, but not like those cameras.
So I got a question for you, Scott.
Yes, ma'am.
When you're shooting, on the back of your screen, are you looking at the image you just took, or are you looking at your histogram, or are you looking at a combination of both?
I look at a combination of both. A lot of times, if it's real tricky lighting, I look at the combination of both. I've got my image and the histogram up underneath it. Mm-hmm. But typically on a wedding day, because I deal so much with especially highlights, I have on my little blinkies. If you know what I'm talking about, it shows where my highlights are blown or whatever. And typically I'll shoot kind of with that in mind on a wedding day, because if it doesn't matter so much if the dress is kind of blown, as long as I've got the face, and and I'll kind of adjust there.
Well, and if you miss the shot, you miss the shot, whether your histogram was on or not.
Exactly.
Yeah. You got to kind of flow with it at a wedding.
But yeah, histogram's important, but usually on wedding days, I'm mainly a blinky guy. But then when I shoot seniors, I'm the image with the histogram together. So
now, is your histogram a straight RGB, or do you have the separate channels so you can see all three channels?
it's the straight RGB, but I believe it's divided up into 3 channels. Let me see.
I know on mine, I can either have the regular histogram underneath the image, or I can have the little smaller image and then the 3 histograms on the side.
Yeah.
And to be honest, there's probably more information in those 3, but I just find it easier to deal with the one big histogram.
Well, if you're setting a white balance, then you're not concerned necessarily with all 3. I mean, the real reason for having the separate, channels is so, a regular histogram without showing all 3 channels will show you if you've blown anything out, but you might still be blowing out the reds if you're looking at just RGB.
Yeah.
But if you have the 3, then you would see if the reds are blown versus the other 2 colors. But if you're white balancing, it's a moot point.
Right. And I just use the one that straight all the way across. Yeah. I've always been one of those. I don't know, I try to keep it simple. I go by a what do you call those things? Acronym where it's
KISS.
I learned in a workshop. Yeah, KISS. Keep it simple,
stupid.
And that's always been me from day one. The less I have to worry about, the better I can shoot.
Yeah.
Are you shooting RAW or JPEG? Which is something I have to ask, given the name of the show.
Yeah, I'm definitely all RAW. I've been RAW pretty much since day one. Now I do convert my RAW files to DNGs, just because I don't like those little sidecars when I process.
Mm-hmm.
I just like one file, move everything. But yeah.
Yeah.
So you're using Lightroom then?
No, I'm actually still using Adobe Camera Raw editor in Photoshop. I have Lightroom. But I pretty much spent $300 on a culling software. I use it just to cull my images down, and that's it.
Well, it does do a great job of culling, of letting you cull through images pretty fast.
Right.
But hey, whatever workflow works for you is what you need to stick with.
Yeah.
All right. So what you mentioned weddings? What other type of and I think you mentioned seniors. Is that would you say those are your 2 favorites, or what would be your favorites?
Yeah, I think those are probably my 2 favorites. That's kind of what I'm trying to pretty much specialize is, I guess the idea I want to do is just kind of specialize on those 2. Outside of those, like I said, I do enjoy shooting, like toddlers. They're fun. Pretty much what they do is what you get, and I think that's what kind of makes it interesting and never a dull moment. But yeah, pretty much weddings and seniors, and my seniors have actually taken off in the last couple of years. I pretty much doubled my seniors this year than I did the year before, and I'm hoping to do the same thing this coming up year.
So you have a senior rep program. You want to give us some of your tips on your senior rep program?
Yeah, basically what I do is, like what you see there, I kind of put out a calling, and I'll have people email me. I've got a series of questions, that I'll ask them about, obviously what school, what are their interests, do they do any kind of, extracurricular activities outside of school, like sports or any kind of, clubs or this, that, and the other. I don't require a picture for them to send me, but if they do, that's.
I think we lost him.
Scott?
Uh-oh. Got a lag on Scott. You lost him.
I think we lost Scott.
He's frozen and staring at us.
Yeah. Okay, everybody just hold on. Scott went offline. We'll have him back in a second, hopefully. And while we're waiting for Scott, I'm going to try and get some of his photos ready.
I will tell you, someone had asked about his senior rep program, so I thought this was a really good tip from another photographer friend of mine. She hosts a limo day every year right before the senior season starts, and she selects, 5 or 6 or 7 seniors, and she rents out a limo, and she has a makeup artist on hand, and I think that she comps their sitting fee, but they get the experience. They're obviously not walking away with any images. And so then she takes them all out in the limo. There's the makeup artist on hand. So they get all dolled up and they go downtown. This girl lives in Kentucky, so it's downtown Louisville. And she does a huge photo shoot with all these kids. And then a few weeks later, she has a viewing party where she invites all of the seniors back. They can bring their friends and their family members, and she displays all of their images on the big screen, and they immediately has a selling session right there with the family. And she makes bank doing it. And the seniors tell everybody about it because they're so excited they got selected to be on the senior limo day. It's a really great event for her.
Wow, that does sound interesting.
Yeah.
Scott, do we have you back?
I think so. I think I'm back. I dropped out for a second somehow.
Okay. And Kathleen was just telling us about the senior, what was it called again?
She does a senior limo day.
Yeah, I heard that. It actually sounds pretty impressive, actually.
Yeah, I think it would really work for you, Scott, especially because you're, really nailing down that senior market already, and you've already got such a good rep program. That would just be in addition to what you've already got that's so great.
Right.
So I wanted to get in a few of Scott's photos as we continue to ask him other questions too. I'll scroll through some of these, but this is one I wanted to make sure that we talked about before we lost Scott. And Kathleen, ask questions as, I don't want to distract from your questions.
Oh, you're fine.
But Scott, Scott has tons of wonderful photos. This is just one that jumped out at me because it's something that I would have never thought of that I think worked really nice. I really like this image. Can you tell us a little bit about this shot, Scott?
Yeah, I'll have to admit, this was the bride's idea. This was right at the end of the session. It's pretty much dusky dark. I thought it was kind of cheesy when she brought it up to me, but I was like, we'll go for it and see what we can get. And these are the new Christmas lights. It's the LED Christmas lights, which are pretty bright. And so, of course, we, intertwined them and wrapped them up. And there's several shots of this, but this was my favorite that turned out well. And like I says, it got just enough light on them to kind of, you could see the glowing of the Christmas lights. And then, thanks to full frame sensors, I think I was shooting this at about, 3200 ISO or
Wow.
1600 ISO.
Don't you love it? Don't you love it?
Oh,
I am so jealous.
And I had it. It's cranked. And Mike, you could probably, if you right click and save that image out, you might could even read the metadata in Bridge to see the ISO that was shot. But it turned out really well. Like I says, I've got the clouds in the background with a little bit of vignetting going on. But yeah.
Now let me ask you. You must have added some of your own light too there, right?
This I can't remember. I don't know if I had an off-camera. I usually shoot a lot of off-camera flash, and I can't remember if I had any on here or not. I think I just might have cranked the ISO up a bunch to get them kind of.
It just looks. The light looks. And for those guys out in chat, none of these photos that we're going to show you are as good as what you'll see on his website, because we're streaming this, so it has to be a little bit reduced quality. But it looks so well balanced. It actually right where the light is blown out, of course, but their faces are well lit. The background doesn't look crazy blown out. It's just the lighting is really nice here.
And that's something that it took me a while to grasp as I was coming up through the first couple of years of shooting, especially portraitures, is I couldn't understand, especially shooting in manual mode, why could I not have everything perfectly exposed? And I just finally, photographers that I usually follow up in South Carolina, he just told me one day, he said, look, he says, you either got to get the face, you got to get the sky. There's not a lot of, there's not much in between, and without doing a lot of processing. And ever since then, as long as I can, pretty much get the face exposed right, then I kind of tweak a little bit, but blown out highlights doesn't really bother me that much. I can deal with it.
Okay, so you said the face or the sky, but all of your images, the sky is gorgeous. How are you pulling this off?
If you'll notice, and a lot of people mention that, if you'll notice when I'm shooting those, it's pretty much with a wide angle lens. This lens here, I think I'm not quite sure if this is my 24-70 or if this is my 14-24, but for some reason, I still haven't figured out the science of it, but when I use that wide angle lens, mainly that 14-24, I can expose my subject and get the skies just like, knocked down gorgeous. But if I try this with a 70-200, I'm sacrificing either a face or a sky, but I can't get both. And
yeah.
So what is your available aperture on your 14-24, did you say?
It's the 2.8.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, I think, Scott, you mentioned it. You got to get either the sky or the face, and I think that's because cameras can only expose. I'm probably going to get this wrong, but it's somewhere between 5 and 8 stops of light. Where the human eye can see something over 20, I believe, is what it is. Those aren't exact. So, Tim, if you're writing show notes, don't quote me exactly.
Yeah, somewhere around that, I agree.
But the human eye can see far more stops of light than what a camera can, unless you're going to go HDR, where you're taking multiple bracketed sets and bringing them together to create one exposed image, which is not necessarily going to work well for people. You're going to have to let something blow out in this case.
So, Scott, you don't do HDR?
I do not, no. I'm not opposed to HDR. If it's done correctly, I think they can make beautiful shots, but I'm more of I don't know, I like for my images to be as close to what you can actually see the moment how it was. And with HDR, like I says, if done correctly, they can be some just incredible images. But on the flip side, it's just like there's no way that scene looked like what what we're being shown, and it's just I guess a difference of opinion. But I'm just more of a kind of how you see it is how I shoot it.
My experience has been that HDR is better for landscape shots with people, unless all of your shots are really going to be fast, fast shutter speed. Right. Getting them, like I tried with my kids over the Christmas break, getting them to hold steady for 7 shots. Even though they thought they were incredibly still, they weren't. You go and look at it, like, what were you thinking? You had 3 smiles. 7 shots, you had 3 different smiles. How's that holding steady? It's just not going to work well. So, in this case, the sky is probably a little bit blown out, but I think that adds to the image in this case.
Yeah, almost
looks like light shining right through them.
Yeah.
Yeah, luckily where it was blown out is kind of it actually makes for a nice background. It kind of makes them stand out from the background, actually.
Mm-hmm. It almost gives a silhouette effect to their faces, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. And I think that's something that, obviously Scott, his experience and his skill, knows when and when not to do that. And this added to the shot because the faces, you can see the faces are perfectly exposed. And for me, my eye is drawn actually to his face and his smile.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. I'm right there with you. I bet you that's where his grid would end up too. Is right if you did a grid over the photograph. I bet you would end up right in the corner of his eye.
Yeah, it's when I edit in ACR, when I do crop, and actually I try to do it because I've got my grid that comes up on my viewfinder as well, but I work those points like crazy.
I know. It makes a difference to me, too. I'll get a really good shot, and then all of a sudden I'll recrop it. I'm just like, there it is. It just makes everything feel right in the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Kathleen, if you want to continue with your questions.
Sure.
Scott, did you have hold on a second. Did you have a photo you wanted me to show, Scott, in particular?
Nothing that I can think of off the top of my head.
I don't want to make people dizzy here.
I love your photo shoot that you did with the bride on the old junk trucks. It looks like in a junkyard.
Yes, my trash to dress session.
That was awesome. What was your inspiration for that?
Well, I needed, and this was being in wedding photography. There's so many great photographers out there, and I Facebook stalk probably 5 wedding photographers all the time.
Okay. Give us 2 names that you love.
2 names, all right. One of them is actually probably 3 names. I'll throw 3 names out to you. two of them are actually from Canada. It's Melissa Van Otterloo or Melissa Ray Photography. It's a husband-wife team.
Okay.
And then the other one is As I See It Photography.
Okay.
Shelley and Jeff Weber. They're really great. And then one is actually here from Georgia. She's in our JPEG group, Melissa Prosser. She's a great photographer as well.
What was her last name?
Prosser.
Oh,
I think it's how you say it. I could be getting it wrong.
Cool.
But anyway, and with all the great wedding photographers out there, you always want your images to stand out in some way, shape, or form. And when we did the Trash the Dress, she technically wasn't a bride, so I kind of cheated there. She went out and got a wedding dress, but we mocked it up like a session. But yeah, we just went to a junkyard, and I just wanted to contrast, a beautiful bride with just somewhere where you wouldn't even picture a bride to be, and that would be, junk cars and then mud and,
Yeah, I love it.
I'm trying to find. He has so many. It's just taking me forever to get to it.
Yeah, actually, Mike, you probably can click. I think that's it there, or that's the section. But yeah, I've done several trash.
I love the stuff in the water too.
I'm going to have you have some. Sorry, Kathleen, I'm going to be a little sexist here, but you have some gorgeous brides.
Yeah, I've been pretty fortunate to shoot pretty people. So
here we go. Is this the junkyard?
This is one. This one. She actually burned her dress. This was actually you'll see toward the end.
Here we go.
Where are you finding these junkyards? Are they in Jefferson?
What the first junkyard? This one I actually have a key to. It's a friend of the family who owns the junkyard, so I've got a key there that I can pretty much go there and shoot pretty much any Sunday afternoon that I need to.
That's awesome.
I've had a lot of seniors shoot here. But then the junkyard, I think that you're talking about, it's on down, Mike, a little bit. It's a extremely large junkyard in Jefferson. But they got us access there, and it turned out really great.
Now, is this the one I got here with the fire? Is this a real bride and groom?
It was. This was, I did not shoot their wedding, but they had run across some of my Trash the Dress shots through Google somehow, and she contacted me and wanted something pretty extreme and unique, and I was like, well,
that's extreme.
Yeah, I said, I'm all about that. So we got together and talked about it, and I said, well, I got a perfect place for it. And
so cool. I cannot believe if you're going to trash it, burning it is the epitome of trashing it. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, is this the ones?
This was right before that one, I believe. But this was a downtown shoot in Athens, Georgia. This was actually last December. I put a call out to do Trash the Dress, and these two girls actually knew each other. One's the hairdresser for the other one.
Oh, that's fun. Now, when you put casting calls out, is there any kind of financial incentive that you do as well, or is it just to see if anybody's interested?
I like to see if anybody's interested, and then if they do it, once I get through editing the images, I just give them a disc of the images.
You're way too generous, can I tell you? And I still have my wedding dress, and I still fit into it. So there we go.
Good for you.
Okay, so my next question I had was, what are you using for your portrait touch-ups? Is there anything you're doing in Photoshop specifically? Are you using any portraiture or anything like that?
No. The first time I'd heard I didn't know there was a software called portraiture till in the JPEG group. Somebody was talking about it. I could think they used it for babies and all, but typically I do 90% of my editing in the RAW, Adobe Camera Raw. And then a lot of the ones that you'll see on my blog, I'll pull in to Photoshop, and I may do a little bit of, I don't know what to call, I guess like a skin smoothing, a little bit of sharpening, but outside of that, I don't really, I used to be real action heavy. If you go back to my 05, 06 images. They're pretty embarrassing because they're just, it's like, hey, I have Photoshop and I know how to run an action. Look at this. But since then, I've went away from it. And like I said, I want my images to be as close to how I saw them. And typically, sometimes I'll add some texture or, some type of a color overlay just for mood purposes. But I definitely don't want to overspice my images with Photoshop.
So what are you using to smooth your skin out?
It's an action. Let me see if I can. I think I downloaded it from. It's called Pro Retouch.
Okay.
I got it from DeviantArt.com.
That's the same company that does portraiture, I think.
Is it?
No,
well,
maybe now. Imagenomics does portraiture.
Well, this is a website. You can actually, it's a pretty cool website too. If you guys should check it out. It's called DeviantArt.com, and you can type in like Photoshop actions, and boom, tons of free actions come up that you can download.
Very
Some
cool.
are way better than others, but I found this action. I believe it's on DeviantArt several years ago, and never really used it till I started shooting kids or newborns, and I was like, it's kind of cool for, smoothing out rashes or whatever's there. And then every once in a while I'll use it on a bride, but I try not to airbrush too much to my subjects because I think it takes the real out of the picture.
Yeah, my goal is always to get rid of the ugly, but to always still be able to see their pores. If I can't see their pores, then I feel like I've made them look, not real.
Right.
A little
but
too
I
plastic.
also don't want them to have triple acne, especially with those seniors.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I've mentioned it several times. I'm not a pro, but I do. My son is on a high school swim team, and there's a lot of kids on there with acne, and they're really appreciating my, even in these are just sports images. I've gone through and gotten rid of a lot of acne using the clone stamp and a healing brush or whatever it is, in Lightroom and Photoshop. And I haven't heard anything from the kids, but I've heard things from the moms. What'd you do to his photo? He looks so much better.
And it's funny you say that, the healing brush. I've actually started to use the healing brush a lot more than the actual Pro Retouch action. The healing brush, and especially CS5.
Right.
I mean, it's pretty amazing.
It's awesome. It's awesome. Okay, so since we're talking about it, give us a quick run through. You take the image off your camera. What's your step-by-step normal editing process?
Yeah. I'm actually pretty proud of my workflow because I pretty much have to be having a full-time job and pretty much being a full-time photographer as well. So I've got it down to a science, and believe it or not, I can kick out a wedding, and probably I've done it this year. I can have the disc back to my brides probably within a week or week and a half.
That's amazing. Good for you.
And how many images would you take at a wedding?
I'll bring home about 2,700 to 3,000, and I'll usually give my brides anywhere from 600 to 700. I try to do 50 images per hour shot. That makes sense.
So when you're saying in a week and a half, whatever it was you said there, that you're giving them a CD or DVD, is that edited photos?
That's fully edited, every picture touched.
Wow.
All right, well, let's hear this workflow.
That is incredibly fast.
You guys ready for this?
Yeah.
I bring the night of the wedding. I come in, I dump all my cards on the computer, and actually, as they're dumping, they're converting to DNGs. Once they get on the computer, I create a folder. I have a numbering system. I'm real meticulous when it comes to organization, but I have a numbering system, basically a 6-digit numbering system. If it was shot on Christmas Day, my file would be labeled 122511, and then the last name of the bride and groom. And then that way everything kind of falls in line once I stack all my folders.
Yeah.
And then from there, I'll pull all my images in the Lightroom, all 27 or 3,000, however many there is. And I'll go through and I'll do my culling. X, delete, keep going. If it doesn't move me within the first couple seconds I see it, it gets X'd.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm one of those too. I don't really stress over an image. If it, like I says, if I don't feel it, it gets X and I move on. So the first initial cull, I'll usually cut it to about half. Then I'll go through a second one and I'll throw out some more. And then my third one, that's when I get a little bit picky. If I've got 2 or 3 images of the same shot, I'll probably keep one and discard the others.
Mm-hmm.
So on average, it usually comes out to about 50 images per hour shot. So let's say I've got now 600 to 700 images to pull in and edit. Well, that's a lot better pulling in to edit than 3,000, which I know a lot of my photographer friends, they'll pull in all their images and edit, and then they'll delete as they're going through and doing the editing. But to me, that seems like it would take longer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I agree.
So
Yeah.
How much time in each image are you spending editing?
Well, if it's in the same location, I can open up anywhere from, I don't know, I might open up anywhere, usually 10 to 25 images at a time. And if it's within the same location, I mean, my settings are pretty much the same. Once I get my shot down, I don't really change my settings as long as we're in that same area. So I can batch process and RAW all those images at one time, close out, open up my next series, go through those. I try to do about 200 to 250 images a night. And if you take that over 700 images, then
3 or 4 nights.
So you look 3 or 4 nights just editing, then I'll pull in, 10 to 15 in Photoshop, do some sharpening, some cool tweaks too. Then I'll save them all out as JPEGs and custom design my disc cover, case cover, do all my printing in-house, get them in the mail, and the bride's got it within, a lot of times less than 2 weeks after the wedding.
Are you more of a levels or curves kind of guy?
Probably levels. I like curves and I played around with it. It's just, I guess I'm just so used to levels over curves.
Mm-hmm.
But
I'm there with you. Would you say that you edit your senior sessions very similar to how you do your weddings?
Oh yeah, the exact same workflow. Mm-hmm. And technically, that's one thing that I tell my seniors. I actually tell my brides, I'm like, look, I may be a little higher than the next photographer, but I guarantee you'll have your wedding pictures, every one of them touched up, edited, probably back to you in 2 weeks or less.
Yeah, that's great.
And with seniors, I normally shoot them on Sunday afternoons.
Mm-hmm.
They've usually got their pictures in hand on disc by Wednesday or Thursday.
That's great.
So,
what kind of printer are you using? Because you said you do everything at home.
Yeah, I've got now when I print, the only thing I print is like my disc covers and CDs, but I've got an Epson 1400 stylus. Love it because you can actually, I buy the DVDs and CDs that have the blank white faces. And
right.
You can slide them onto a tray and it feeds right into the printer and prints directly on it.
Right. I have an R800.
Yeah, great quality.
Too. It's awesome. It
Great
saves
quality.
You so much money. I mean, I know that White House Custom Color will do it for you, but
it's 9 o'clock.
Way more expensive.
Oh yeah,
9 o'clock. What was that?
My computer talks to me.
Oh.
I apologize for that.
No, that's all right. So if you're doing 250 a night, like you mentioned, you're doing a lot of batch processing. You're not having to go into each image and doing a lot of editing on each image, right?
No, because my whole philosophy, and I teach classes here in Jefferson, the rec department, and I tell most of the students there, I'm like, the more you can get it right in camera, the more time you can save out of camera. And that's always my philosophy. I mean, it's kind of like, as close as you can get it in camera right, then that's less time on the back end. which you have to spend.
Yeah, not your workflow is obviously working for you. But the Lightroom you tried, was it Lightroom 2 or Lightroom 3?
I think I've got Lightroom 2.
Okay, because they mentioned out in chat, and this is something I've done too. Is Lightroom doesn't have actions; it has things called presets.
Right.
And one of the things. So let's say since I shoot in RAW also, if I'm shooting in a gym and I set my white balance, but for whatever reason it was still a little bit off, I can, when I get it into Lightroom, set it on that first one and say this is the right white balance, and then copy that out to all the rest of them. And it copies out within seconds. And I can also make some changes. So let's say if I wanted to have a standard sharpening or contrast adjustment or whatever else, copying it out to all of them is very quick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, ACR's got the same thing. To tell you the truth, Lightroom spawned from ACR.
I think they use the same ACR engine.
Same one.
The controls, the dials, everything is the same in ACR and Lightroom, except they're just in different places. And I'm just quicker with ACR because I've been working with it since like 2004. But yeah, I've got presets set up in ACR to where when I open up images, I do a batch. If I like you said with white balance, if I've got my white balance slightly off, I can batch all those, synchronize to the first image, and boom, it does them within a matter of seconds to every image I've got open at that moment.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that
so
is
you mentioned
key.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Well, you mentioned that you teach at your rec center.
Right.
And I saw that you've done workshops in the past. Do you have any workshops coming up that people can sign up for?
I want to. I'm thinking about doing like either an event photography workshop or even possibly even a senior workshop. Because I just think I've got tons of people that would like to volunteer to, be the models or whatever. But I'm just trying to find a venue. If I did like an event photography, that I could say, hey, this is what I'm kind of wanting to host here. If we do this, we'll turn over some images to you that you can use on your website, this, that, and the other. But I've got to get with my photography buds in South Carolina. They've hosted a lot more workshops than I have, so I need to see exactly how they put it on and the logistics of all that. But yeah, it's something I definitely would like to do and want to do.
And now that you guys have brought workshops, I wanted to mention, tonight was the announcement of the Rachel Brinke workshop giveaway that we're going to do around 9. But I think Rachel has been traveling for Christmas, and it looks like we're not going to be able to hook up with her. So we'll probably have to do it next week if she can hook up with us next week, unless she comes on before we finish. So if you're here for that, stay and listen to Scott, and if Rachel comes in before the show ends, we'll bring her in. If not, then hey, we'll see you next week.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, we'd love to see more workshops come from you, Scott. I think that you have a wealth of information that you can offer everybody.
Well, and speaking of how he helps, on his webpage, he has something called, was it Four Photographers?
Yeah.
And here he shows off his excellent drawing skills.
Yes.
I make fun of that, but what it is actually those are better drawing skills than me. He's showing you the image and then showing you the lighting setup and everything about it. And I'm just showing you one of them. He has a number of these where he's showing you how he created that. It's very interesting and good to look at.
Now, did you set that up before you did the pictures so you knew it, or was this post shot of what you did?
No, this is usually when I do these, what I call cheat sheets, is I'll go through and pick out my favorite shots or some unique lighting shots from different sessions, and then I'll do my drawing or lack thereof drawing. But this was basically, like I said, I set the shot up first, played around with my settings, got it right, and then several weeks later come back and did the cheat sheets for it.
I love your light that you have on that senior right there because it shows off the window and her. It's beautiful.
Yeah, and I'm a one speed light shooter. That's all I use is just one speed light.
Wait, a speed light like a Nikon SB800?
SB900. sitting on a flash. That's all I use.
Yeah, you got the D3 and the 900.
Rub it in, Scott. Rub it in.
I will. If anybody out there has the 900, I would recommend turning off the heat sensor because it voids the warranty if you do. But chances are you're not going to blow it. It's more of a nuisance for me because before I turned it off, it was making this like weird alien noise when I would take a couple shots and it wouldn't shoot for a while. So, but I read if you just turn it off, then you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, one speed light's all I've used for pretty much anything you see off camera flash is just a one speed light shot.
Very cool. Very cool.
All right. Oh, here we go. Here's another one. I knew there were more. You have something there talking about. I don't want to stay on this too long because you'll never be able to read it. But it's photo salt and pepper.
Yeah.
Talking about using Photoshop to improve your images to do how did you call that? To add flavor to the image.
Yeah, I was based on a flight back from Vegas, and I was reading a photographer some of you might know out in, I think she's in California, Jasmine
Star, yeah.
Yeah. And I was reading I think it was in a magazine, they had done an article on her, and she had used this great analogy that Photoshop is like salt. It's great to add flavor to your food, but too much can totally ruin it. And I was like, she's really onto something there. And that goes along with my whole, action things. If you go back and look at my stuff, like I said, from the early days, I'm just like action heavy. And it's just, I really kill a lot of good images by just overdoing it. And
I think some of that may be that not you, but a photographer did not get it right in camera, and they're trying to rescue an image that may not deserve rescuing.
Well, and I also think that so much of it too, aside from the rescuing part, which is totally right on, is that, as photographers, especially when we're starting out, we're trying so hard to figure out what our style is and what niche we fit into. And so, we see, Florabella, and they have all these gorgeous images. And if you buy their actions, then you think that your images are going to look like theirs. And so then, when Florabella runs their actions, they're dialing everything down and adding a little bit of salt and pepper to it. And then, a lot of people buy their actions and throw it on their full force, never adjusting any opacities. And then all of a sudden it's just kind of screaming at you,
Yep.
Yeah.
So I think that, even though actions, they can be great, it's first of all, the best information I ever heard was to go in and figure out what the action is doing and why it's doing it. So if you need to go back, you can figure out how to do it yourself later, and only use the action to speed things up, not to mask over what you don't know how to do.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, going back to when you first started, looking at some of your images, and again, in chat, you're not going to see them at full quality, but the lighting is so rich and the colors are so good. You couldn't have been this good at the beginning, right?
No.
How long did it take you to get to this level of photography?
Well, luckily I do, with my full-time job, I obviously create designs all day long. So I'm pretty much working in Photoshop nonstop from 8:30 in the morning until sometimes 12:30, 1:30 at night. So I'm very, 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 very familiar with Photoshop, and just working with images there, and then taking online courses and going to workshops is just kind of I like to kind of desaturate a lot of my images. Sometimes I'll do a little oversaturation. It's just, I don't know, sometimes the image just kind of talks to me here and there, and I'm just like, okay, you need to be desaturated, or hey, you need to be oversaturated. And it's just, I don't know, it's just kind of over time working in Photoshop and knowing what Photoshop can do and can't do, just, I think has helped me out a good bit.
So you get more than the 10-20% that I'm lucky if I get out of Photoshop.
What's that now?
You're getting more than the 10 to 20% that I probably get out of Photoshop, because that's an amazing program, and I know I just scratched the surface.
Yeah, it's very, very deep.
Well, I'm sure your graphic design background really helps with both your photography and with your post-processing.
Yeah, I think it does. And that's what I tell a lot of my students in class. It's like, to me, other than, you know, exposure being right off the bat, I think a lot of it is composition. Composition can make or break an image, whether it's got all the best colors in the world or whatnot. If it's boring to look at, I mean, it's just boring to look at. And I think composition, to me, is the next most important thing besides getting the image exposed right.
Oh, now look at this one. This one, I love the color in this one. I wish chat can see this in full quality. Y'all got to go to his website.
Yeah, this one's
when we're
stunning.
Done. This one is just stunning. And this one, I think you used all natural light, right?
Yep, just window light. It's this was
and a white poster under the floor.
This was a white at Piedmont Park Tavern in Atlanta, and this is where the bride was getting ready. And the window to the right, so people couldn't see in, had like this big, huge white paper taped over the window, and it just made for a great diffuser.
Again, another gorgeous bride.
Yes.
Yeah. Scott, I do have to say, and I mean this in the best way possible, that you're a shock for me because, like, your Southern accent is so deep, and you just sound like a good old country boy pushed into the redneck side, and then here you're coming out with these elegant, stunning, romantic images. And it's so funny to have a guy's guy mixed with images like this for me. It just doesn't go together.
Yeah, I usually tell people when I'm talking to my brides, especially over the phone, first time I meet them, I'm like, okay, I really am a lot better than I sound.
Well, do you advertise, or is it word of mouth now for you?
I do advertise. I've got a billboard that floats around the local area. How much of that's really coming from that? I think it's more of the billboards probably get me a little bit more exposure as far as putting in people's minds that, oh, he's probably bigger than he really is, which, you know, I'm okay with that if they want to think that. The only forms of advertising I do, and I don't know if you guys have been to like either one of my Facebook pages, but I do a lot of like little self-promos. I've got self-promo albums that some are a little bit more edgier, some are real dry sense of humor. Sometimes I'll, add seniors or weddings, and I'll tag the people in those, and then those will go out. And whoever I shoot, I really don't have a Facebook page. It's built for personal purposes. It's all built for photography. If I shoot you and you're on Facebook, I'm probably going to ask you to be my friend. So when I get your images done, I'm going to tag you in them. And I probably book about 90% of my seniors through Facebook and tagging.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what your billboard's doing for you. It's the same thing, that Coca-Cola does. Just because I see a billboard that says Coca-Cola, it doesn't make me stop my car and go get a drink. But it puts something in my mind because I see Coke over and over and over again, that when I get thirsty, the first thing that pops into my head is Coke.
Yeah.
And so what your billboard is doing is people see that over and over and over again, and then when they think, I need to get some pictures done, the first thing that pops in their head is Scott Greene.
Right, and they're also saying he's not a fly-by-night. He's got a billboard, so he must be real.
That's right. He's legit. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Advertising, Scott can probably tell us more about this than we could, but advertising is, get your name out there and people seeing it over and over again. And like you said, Kathleen, then when they think about something, they come back to you. You don't get immediate feedback normally from an advertisement,
right?
But it's just that building event.
How many weddings would you say you shot in senior pictures?
Weddings actually it's kind of sad, but I keep them numbered. I ended up, my last wedding this year was number 54 for me total. I shoot a limited number each year on purpose because, one, they are stressful. Two, they can drive you pretty much insane if you let them. But I try to shoot, my goal every year is to shoot 7 weddings. And a lot of people, and I usually end up shooting a lot more, but I've already hit my quota for this year and probably fixing to book 3 more.
Wait, you say you shot 54 weddings last year?
No. 54 total.
Okay.
Oh,
okay.
okay.
I thought you were saying 54 last year. I was like, holy crap.
Like,
No,
it's only 52
That's busy.
weeks a year.
Andy's got a full-time job.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, that's 54 since like 05.
Okay.
Okay, gotcha. So you try and book about 7 a year.
7 to 10 a year. I've already hit my 7. I'm probably fixing to book 3 more. And the reason I do that, I shoot limited number of my weddings, which I call it. I do a lot of side shooting, which I love. Anybody out there needs a side shooter, I love to side shoot. But I try to shoot 7 to 10 of my own, because that way those 7 or 10 I can, focus strictly on. I think the biggest disservice any photographer can do to their client, especially wedding photographer, is overbook. Because once you overbook, I think your quality of service tends to go down, even though you don't intentionally mean for it to.
Yeah.
It does, and that's one thing that I never want to do, because my wedding pictures were pretty much, I guess, the product of an overbooked photographer. It's like they weren't intended to. We didn't get good turnaround times. I mean, it's just, and I told my wife when I started shooting weddings, I was like, I don't want people to have anything negative to say about Scott Greene photography when it comes to weddings. So,
Yeah.
And on the flip side, I also think too, by limiting my number of weddings, it actually, we've actually had discussions on this in the JPEG group, is I think it actually adds value to you, because you don't take everything that comes along, and you don't have to take everything that comes along. So I actually, when somebody's asking me about pricing, I have a form that I send out to them. I just don't send out packages to anybody that asks for them. I have a questionnaire that, I kind of tell them what my starting price is, what my clients average. Then I have a series of questions that lets me know more about them and their day. And 9 out of the 10 that are returned back, I usually end up booking. But, a lot of them, I never hear back from the person. They never return them, which they're probably not my client anyway. So
Right. I totally agree with you with adding value, because I had great experience with that this winter. I have no desire to do Christmas photo photography ever again. It's not a moneymaker. I don't enjoy it. And so I started turning people away, and it was amazing how I would turn them away and send them the names of 5 or 6 other photographers in the area that they could use. And within a week, they'd be calling me back saying, okay, well, we know you don't do Christmas photography, but can we book you for April or May?
Yep, exactly.
And I was like, really? All right.
And I've got several
photographers
that definitely overbook themselves. And I mean, it's just like you sit there and watch them, just get covered up in photography, and it's just, that's the quickest route to burnout ever, is to be just,
Absolutely, yeah.
How many seniors do you like to do?
Now, seniors, I shot 16 this year, which was double from what I shot the year before. I could shoot seniors, I wouldn't mind even doubling that again. I wouldn't mind going, 32 seniors this year. I can pretty much shoot seniors, especially during the summers and the afternoons during the week, because they're only like, an hour and a half to 2 hour sessions. And I can get them kicked out, within a day or a day and a half. So those are pretty profitable and fun to shoot for me.
Now, why do y'all like shooting old people so much?
They listen.
I saw somebody was telling me, I can't remember what country they came from, but when they came to America, maybe I heard this on a show, they didn't tell me, I heard this on a show. When they came to America, they heard everybody talking about how everybody likes to shoot seniors. And then, why does everybody like to shoot old people? What is up with this?
On my pricing, it says seniors, the kind that's graduating from high school, not the kind that gets free coffee at McDonald's.
There you go.
And the question is, why do we keep shooting them?
Yeah.
Right.
So, Scott, I have another photo up here I wanted to talk about before we're getting close to where we need to end this. And this one is one where you got a heavy light in the background from the lights on. I guess that's a Ford F-150.
Right.
Something like that. And you're overpowering those to some extent with your flash that's there. Does that Is that also a speed light?
The flash to the right, yeah, that's a
Yeah.
speed light as well.
Because she is so well lit, and those lights in the background are just adding to the scene, not blowing it out.
Right. Yeah, that's mainly I use the lights more of a I was trying to go for like a rim light,
Like a
but
hair light, yeah.
it ended up being kind of a cool, not really the rim light I was looking at, but kind of a cool background light. And but yeah, I think I don't know if that's the 900. That was a shot. That was a senior done last year. I believe that might have been the 800 on the stand there, but I either had it at a fourth power or an eighth of a power. I hardly ever shoot full power when I shoot off camera flash.
Yeah, and I know we can't see your video right now, so you might want to start and stop it when we could bring us back in there. But right now in your house, you're lighting yourself for this podcast with a see-through umbrella. Is that what you're using?
Right.
Yeah. Do you ever take those out in the field? Do you have a battery or anything to take those out in the field?
Hardly ever. The only time I use a shoot-through umbrella if I'm shooting indoors, which is like babies or kids or if I'm having to do product shots or whatever.
So you're getting the light that you're using for all these images I just went through basically from just the little speed light. Now, I have the SB 800, but the SB 900 is just the upgrade version of this. Are you using generally just one speed light?
Yeah, pretty much one speed light. Every once in a while, you had a shot on there earlier with the car in the background.
Yeah.
I had one behind the car. I saw that.
I had one up underneath the car or behind it. Every once in a while, if I'm using a big object like that, I'll kind of do multiple lights. But if I'm shooting a subject, one person, it's usually one light. I just, like I says again, I like to keep it simple, stupid, and the less I have to change as far as lighting goes, the better off and the more creative I can get as far as shooting.
Is your flash, do you have any kind of diffusers on it, or is it just a straight up flash and you're just dialing it back or dialing it up?
Straight up flash, just dialing it back as I need to.
Any kind of filters you put on it? I know the 800 came with a couple of gels that you can put on there.
I've just recently started gelling them, especially if I'm inside, not so much outside because the flash power pretty much matches my ambient anyway.
Yeah.
But if I'm inside, then I have the last couple times gelled my flash using the incandescence or fluorescent or whatever it calls for, and then if I have to illuminate like a background, I'll maybe do like a blue gel or red gel, just get a little different look. But I've just recently started doing the gels for like especially inside flash.
Very cool.
All right.
Go ahead, Scott.
This was Mike. We should go ahead and start wrapping this up because we want to open up to a couple of questions to the chat. Kathleen, did you have many more?
That's all I was going to ask is if anybody in chat has any questions they'd like to ask.
Scott, anything that you wanted to talk about that we didn't get to? And I know I mentioned this off camera before we started the show, but Scott has so much stuff on his website that we'd love to have him back in a future show. But while we have him here, anybody out in chat have any questions for Scott before we end the show? And while we're waiting for that, I mentioned earlier that Rachel will have her on in a future show. We'll announce the winner. But starting in as soon as I can get this up, we are going to start the new giveaway for January. You'll have all of January to sign up. And in this giveaway, it is Sarah Cornish. I think that's how you pronounce her name. Is that right, Kathleen?
Yes, Sarah Cornish.
From My Four Hens is giving away her Buy the Store, I think that's what she calls it, Buy the Store package.
Which is a huge giveaway. Huge giveaway.
I think she is valued at somewhere around $750.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Such an awesome giveaway.
It is a wonderful giveaway. I'll be posting something about it on Facebook and on our page. And she was going to come on the show January 10th, I believe it is. I'll be posting that soon too. And then she'll come back again in February to announce the winner. So you have all of January to sign up. Same method of signing up that we did for the Rachel Brinke giveaway. And if you signed up for Rachel Brinke and didn't win, or I guess maybe even if you won again, you probably already did everything you'll need to do to sign up for this one. You just have to go back through and sign up. So that is going to be a huge giveaway. We'll give away in January. So be looking for more information on that. Okay, so the first question out there is you don't have a fan page on, I guess, on Facebook, right, Scott? Just personal?
No, I do. It's I've got a personal page, which obviously is not really personal, but I also have a fan page. I think it's facebook.com/Scott Greene Photography, but that's Greene with an E, Greene.
And also for those of you out there that are not part of the JPEG group on Facebook, it's just Joining Photographers Georgia. Obviously, you need to be in Georgia to join up, but Scott kind of spearheaded that one and asked some pretty crazy questions on there sometimes, and so it's a great group to be part of.
Yeah, so let's not confuse that with ours. It's JPG, Joining Photographers
Georgia.
In Georgia, yeah. And that's a very active group with a lot of good information in there. So, if you're in Georgia, that's a good one to join, and of course join ours too.
Yeah, and of course join the jpeg2RAW one as well.
Yeah, the main reason I joined it, or started it rather, is I'm one of those photographers. I'm pretty much an open book. I don't really try to keep any trade secrets from anybody because there's way more business out there than any one person can handle. So I just think it's nice when photographers share what they know with others, and it's just kind of works for everybody. Kind of win-win.
Yeah, it's great. That's the right attitude.
All right. What other questions we got for Scott? And I guess
I saw a question up later that said you have some wonderful locations. Where are they? I'm guessing most of them are in Jefferson.
No, actually, hardly any of them are. I mainly shoot in Athens a good bit, the downtown Athens area. The shot that's showing here, this is actually in Commerce, beside the old Civic Center. A lot of my seniors that I shoot, typically they usually, I don't know, not that they can supply the location, but they usually have locations in mind that they already want to go to, and I just pretty much follow them there.
So you don't know what you're walking into a lot of times, huh?
Typically don't. It's kind of especially with seniors, I show up and I have to kind of evaluate the area within 5 to 10 minutes there, and then we start shooting.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Those are great shots with a dirt bike.
Yeah, I got a few coming up here.
Fun shoot.
Yeah.
I mean, that one of him, was he doing a jump? Is that what he was doing?
He was, and that's the beauty of a wide angle lens again. And if you'll notice, a lot of these with the bike in the field, I shot with my 14 to 24. And that's the beauty with that lens is just you get great skies, and the jump that it showed him doing the jump while ago.
Go back to that.
I was basically had the camera pretty much stuck out on the ground, and he come jumping by, and he was probably maybe a foot or so off the ground, but being that wide angle made it look, or kind of exaggerated the jump a good bit.
Well, and your composition, like you said, exposure and then composition. Your composition on these is so great. Even the ones with him just standing there, it doesn't look like a, hey, here's me and my bike and I'll say cheese photograph. Like it captures the essence of the senior because you got down low. He's not even looking at the camera. These are such a great keepsake, which is what senior photographs should be. It shouldn't be just a posed, look at my pretty smile photograph. It should capture the essence of who the senior is during their senior year.
I thought all senior photos had to be them leaning against a tree.
Yes, those are awesome.
Yeah.
Oh wait, leaning against a tree. Yeah, that's it. And the colors in this is just fantastic too.
Well, I saw somebody ask a question on here. It says, is this early in the morning? And it's actually opposite. It's late in the afternoon. Typically, I do shoot early in the morning or late in the afternoon. That's usually when you get that golden hour. But yeah, most of my shots, and plus because I like to use the sun a lot as backlighting. I like to shoot into the sun. A lot of photographers shy away from it, and I usually love when the sun gets low because I'm shooting right into it pretty much all the time.
Yes.
That's why I like shooting so much in the late afternoon.
Are you using any filters like a polarizer or anything?
I don't. I thought about, at least doing like a neutral density filter. I'm still thinking about trying one of those that kind of will help me pick up more speed on my flash. But no, I haven't used any polarizers. This is all just, basic processing in ACR.
And
so what are you doing with your sky to get it so blue? Are you dialing up the saturation on it at all?
Pretty much the luminosity of the blue. Just kind of pulling it down a bit.
And you're shooting into the sun here. You're also flashing this with your off-camera flash, right?
Yeah.
And that's what's keeping that background not completely blown out and so beautiful.
Exactly. That's the key to a good sky. Not so much what you do with it post-processing, but how you shoot it, while you're shooting it. And if you're shooting with a fast enough shutter speed, you're going to keep those rich blues, and you're going to keep that good contrast with the clouds. And if you've got a good flash on your subject, you're also going to like that. So you pretty much have the finished shot right there before you even have to take it into processing.
Right. So you're exposing not completely for the sky, but more for the sky, and then compensating on him with the flash. Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, I make sure I get my subject down, but it just so happens my sky usually falls in, because this is probably not so much this shot, but when he's just sitting there, that's probably, I don't know, I'm probably shooting like 5.6, 6.3, something like that, aperture. I like to shoot 2.8, but that's almost impossible to get a good rich sky.
That's where my issue's lying then, because I shoot wide open all the time, and with newborns it's great, but if I'm outdoors and I want to get the sky, I need to. And you know what, you've also inspired me too, Scott, because I'm an all-natural light photographer, but your off-camera flash looks so natural. And for me, when the sun dips down low like it is here, my photo shoot's done. And for you, it's just getting started.
Yeah, I love this moment when the sun just is almost down. That's when I start getting excited. I'm like, all right, we got 30 minutes to really shoot here.
Well, I think that the way Scott's using flash, at least to me, the way Scott's using flash is it's just beautiful. It's perfect, in that it's not overpowering flash. Some people, you can see there's where you just hit them so hard with the flash that you can tell so much. This is much. It's adding to the scene rather than subtracting from it.
Well, see, I've always wanted to hide my light. That's what I've always wanted to use it, but not. Obviously, a skilled photographer can look at it and say, well, there's no way you can get the shot without using it. But I want it to, just like you said, I want it to be a splash, just a splash of light to go with the scene, rather than it be what I term as flashy.
Yeah.
But I've always liked to, and I think J-Star actually says that if she uses off-camera flash, she likes to always, she says, don't reveal the light source or hide the light. And I like for it to blend in and look as natural as possible with the environment.
And David said he needs to use more flash, I guess he's talking about the hot shoe flash, rather than carrying around the alien bees, which,
and like I said, the alien bees are great. I've got another photographer friend who uses alien bees or the big strobes. And I've just, at the moment, maybe one day I'll go to them, but just right now I don't have any need. And plus the speed lights, this is probably about a good quarter-mile hike that we had to get to this field. Obviously, the guy got to ride his bike, but I get to carry 2 cameras and a bag and a tripod with a flash on it.
Yeah, and I think as Samantha just mentioned out in chat is, and I'll piggyback on that. When you start thinking about doing workshops and stuff, I think an awesome one for a lot of people would be the lighting, using the flash, because I think a lot of people shy away from flash because it does add a complexity to the shot that is not necessarily there to begin with. But without doing it, you can't get some of these great shots you've got. And for me, at least, mastering the flash is difficult. It takes a lot of practice.
I'm with you and Samantha. If you offer an off-camera flash or lighting workshop, I am all in.
Yeah, and it's like I said, an off-camera flash. It's when I first started doing it, I just basically what I did. I was like, you know what, I'm doing nothing but this whole shoot with nothing but off-camera flash. I'm going to make myself use it. And luckily it was like my cousin, so it was a test session. I totally botched the shoot, and I was like, oh, I'm throwing these things away. I'm never using them, but I just kind of stuck with it, and there's no real formula to it because you can get the same ratios with different setups, but it's as long as you learn that aperture controls your aperture controls the strength of the flash and shutter controls the ambient background. If you can grasp those two concepts, then you pretty much can grasp the whole OCF.
All right, say that for us again. Aperture controls the strength of the flash.
Yes, your aperture controls the strength of the flash.
Okay, and then what was the other thing you said?
Your shutter speed controls the ambient light.
Right.
Okay. Very cool.
So if you can get those two in sync, then that's a good starting point.
Now, Kathleen, going back a second, you had said something about shooting wide open. My experience has been that, at least with my cameras, and even with my lenses, even some of my lenses are high quality, like the 70-200, a Nikon 2.8. Is that while it's at 2.8, shooting wide open, they're soft. They're not. I think if you took a lens and found its sweet point for sharpness, it's not a perfect bell curve, but it's sort of a bell curve. As you continue to stop it down, it gets sharper and sharper, and then it gets to a point where it starts having other issues besides sharpness. And so maybe that's around 5.6 f8, depending on the lens. It's at different places. But is that been your experience too, Scott?
Well, they claim that, and I shoot 2.8 all the time. I just feel like, well, when I say all the time, obviously the senior shots, to get that nice, unique look when the sun's going down, you have to shoot 5.6 or 6, whatever. But when I'm shooting weddings, unless we've got a good shoot schedule worked out, I'm typically not using off-camera flash. I'm typically just got 7200 on one camera, another lens on my backup, and I'm shooting 2.8 no matter where we are. But they do say that your optimum sharpness lens, what you were just talking about, is usually about 2 stops above the highest aperture. So if you're shooting a 2.8, usually the optimum lens sharpness for a lens is usually around 3.2 or f4.
Yeah, and I also think that it kind of depends on what you're shooting. Like, obviously, with seniors, you want the sharp image, and with weddings, you want the sharp image. The reason I shoot wide open is because I'm shooting newborns, and so I don't mind a soft look to the images. Right. I haven't brought in, obviously, a flash. It's been my experience that the parents start to freak out. Like, I've had parents asking me if the lights are going to hurt the baby, which is crazy. But
well, if you're doing them inside, Kathleen, you can point it straight up.
Yeah, I've bounced flash if I've had to in really, really low light situations. One time I was doing a twin session, and it took most of the session just to get the babies posed and happy. And so by the time I was ready to shoot, I had no light. I mean, I was, cranking my ISO as high as it could go, and it was still struggling. And so I ended up bouncing a flash, and it was fine. And that mom was laid back, and so I didn't have an issue. But I don't know. I just like the natural light on kids, but at the same sentence, I love what Scott's doing here with his seniors and how the sky looks so vibrant, and you're really capturing who they are. It's a completely different beast than newborn photography.
Right, and I totally shy away from newborns whenever I can, and but when I do shoot them, and I don't know if you've ever tried it, Kathleen. Have you ever tried using just a standard hot light with an umbrella?
No, I haven't.
That actually, it works in 2 ways. I mean, it's extremely warm, so it can keep the baby warm, and plus it's a constant light that's basically up close and personal. So,
what would you think about maybe instead of a hot light, getting like an LED light? You can go to Lowe's, Home Depot, and get some of those LED lights, and then if she uses her gray card to white balance, you'd have to do that with the hot light too. Right. Gray card to white balance, then you got a light is not doesn't have any heat to it. Now, the one thing with my LEDs is they're pretty harsh. You'd have to find some way to diffuse that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're great ideas. I would love to see it done, Scott.
Yeah. So I think you already have people willing to sign up for your workshops.
I will compose a newborn for you if you show me how to use a hot light.
That might be a doable deal there.
All right.
All right. Well, we've gone way over time, and I don't want to abuse Scott. He won't want to come back on. So, let's go ahead and end things here. As you know, this show will be available on iTunes as soon as I can get it processed. I'm behind times with the holidays and everything. As Kathleen mentioned, Scott does have a Facebook group, and I think it's open to people in Georgia, photographers in Georgia. If you are interested in that, go to sign up there. Scott, where can people find you other than your Facebook group?
Basically, any one of my Facebook pages, my fan page. I think it's Scott Greene Photography. Of course, I got my personal page. Go ahead and ask me to be your friend, because I always post a lot of stuff on there as well. And then other than that, my website, my blog. I respond a lot better to emails because I got my crackberry on me all the time. So.
All right. Kathleen, where can people find you?
Oh, same thing. Facebook, and I have a blog and a website, so just Kathleen Bowie Photography.
Okay, Tim?
I got a Facebook page as well, Tim Kemperle. Probably the easiest way to get a hold of me.
Yeah, and of course you can find me and all of us on jpeg2RAW.com. We have a Facebook group and a Facebook page. You can find us there too. We're also on Twitter and Flickr, and then I am on Google+, although I haven't been doing a whole lot on there. I do have a blog that is way outdated. I think it goes previous to me even starting the podcast, mhphoto.com. And that's FOTO. And, again, come out and see, get the show on iTunes. The show will be available on iTunes eventually. And as you leave chat, don't do this until you're ready to go out of the show. If you're still on our webpage, I think sometimes when you click this, it actually takes you to live stream. But if you're still on our page, there's a little ad below the chat window. And if you click on that, we get, if enough people click on it, we get a little bit of money to help us run the show. But don't do that before you're ready to leave, because that will take you out of the window. Scott, thank you for coming, and we look forward to having you again.
Thank you very much, Scott.
Thank you.
Scott, you were great. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it, guys.
All right. Good night, everybody. Scott, don't
Good night.
yet, but good night, everybody.
Good night,
out
guys.
chat.
Good night. See you next week.